So our next inductee, Don DeVoe. Coach DeVoe developed his coaching prowess under the leadership of fellow OSU teammate Bob Knight, where he served as his assistant coach at Army. While serving as an assistant coach for 5 years at Army, Don coached future legend Mike Krzyzewski. He went on to serve as a head coach at Virginia Tech, Wyoming, Tennessee, Florida, and Navy. Don grew up in Port William in Clinton County, Ohio, where he was a multi-sport athlete, averaged 31 points per game in basketball as a senior, while becoming an All-Ohio honorable mention in 1959. Following graduation, Don went to play basketball under the Ohio State University Hall of Famer Fred Taylor. During his time at OSU, 1960 to 64, the Buckeyes won or shared 5 consecutive Big Ten championships. Don was selected Most Improved Player his senior season. In his 31 seasons as a college basketball head coach, Don led 3 different teams to the NCAA tournament and posted an overall win-loss record of 512 and 389. In 2006, following Don's 31-year coaching or 31-year coaching career, he was chosen by NABC Hall of Famer Sam Newton to be on the NIT selection committee, where he served for 10 years. Don resides in Annapolis, Maryland, with his wife Anna, and enjoys spending time with his children and grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Coach Don DeVoe to the Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame.
Well, hello, everyone. What a humbling experience this is, as Sylvia said, and she's a tough act to follow, Sylvia. She is really one striking young lady. Unfortunately, she wanted to be a Tar Heel. But boy, what a career she's had, and like she said, it's a tremendous journey that she's on right now. She is unbelievable. I was standing next to her earlier today visiting, and I was probably about looking up at her. She must be about 6'7" when she puts heels on, but she's fantastic. Well, I again am truly honored to be here. I've been involved in basketball since I was in the 5th grade, and a lot of good things have happened to me. But I want to first start by thanking the nominating committee. I know some of my good friends like Joe Campoli and Gail Doherty, who did such a great job of developing the basketball program at Ohio Northern University. They were very instrumental, I'm sure, in encouraging the committee to consider me. And of course, I'd like to thank the board for this nomination and for this appointment. It's certainly one of the great highlights of my life. A lot of my friends have said to me, Don, you're kind of getting old. There's been a lot of people selected before you. What's going on? And I said, you got to understand, this is pretty obvious what they're doing. They're saving some of the best for last. And I truly believe that. In this class that I'm in right now, it is a firecracker of a class, and I am truly honored to be here. And I want to congratulate also the other inductees. Again, it's a fine group of people who have contributed so much, to their sport, and it's truly incredible. But as we always say, you don't do very much on your own. Sean pointed that out earlier. It's really a lot of people that help you get along in life, and my family has been my team. And I want to introduce Anna and my son Elliot and Annalise. They're here with their children, and again, there you have been then. And I've got a lot of family members. There haven't been many people from Clinton County, to be honored, by this organization. But tonight we've got a lot of representatives here from Clinton and Greene County. I'm proud of them, and I'm so glad that you're here. So with that, I want to say that it's been an incredible run for me. Basketball started for me in the 50s, like I'm so sure it happened to a lot of other people. Port William was really just a spot, on the map. And if you go home tonight and you're curious about where Port William is, it's going to take you a while. It's going to take you a while to find it. We didn't have a traffic light. We only had a couple stop signs, but we did have a couple feed mills. There was a restaurant at one time. So it was a really pretty much a one-horse town. But growing up like that, it's really pretty incredible. And I always will remember the little gyms that we always played in. Doc and I talked about this earlier. I don't think that I ever really played on a regulation-sized basketball court until maybe I was like a sophomore in high school, and we would go to Xenia, and they had a field house, and so it was quite incredible. I'm telling you, when our gyms, in Clinton County back in the day, were not regulation size. We didn't have any glass backboards. The circles, intersected like maybe 6 or 8 inches. The walls were out of bounds. So it was really quite an experience learning how to play basketball. And you go from, Port William, Ohio to St. John Arena. Let me tell you, there's a hell of a lot of adjusting that has to go on. But back in the day, to me, Port William was like the movie Hoosiers. I mean, it could have been Port William rather than Hickory, that was depicted in that particular movie. Except we didn't have quite the drama that the movie had, but we had all the other drama or all the other stuff that you would have in the 1950s with the small gyms, as I said before, and the buses being decorated and the fans following your team, to various games. So that was pretty incredible. But in the 1960s, a lot of things entered my life. Fred Taylor, Frank Truitt at Ohio State, Gary Brads, Bob Knight, all these things kind of came together for me because I was not a recruited athlete like all the other players that were going to Ohio State at the time, but I was a really good friend and kind of a friendly adversary of Gary Brads at Jamestown. Port William and Jamestown were maybe 10 miles apart, and Gary Brads had decided when he was a senior that he wanted to go to Kentucky and play for Adolph Rupp. But there were some people in our area that didn't think that was such a good idea, and they knew I was a pretty good player, and somebody got in Frank Truitt's ear and said, "You ought to be looking at this guy, Don DeVoe." Well, lo and behold, Ohio State did. They offered me a partial scholarship. Gary Brads told Kentucky to go where. And so Gary Brads and I ended up being roommates at Ohio State. It turned out pretty good for Gary. He ended up being first-team All-American, College Player of the Year in 1964, and I didn't have to play for the Martinsville Colon Feed. I became one of his teammates, and so we had a pretty damn good jury. And along the way, like I said, I was teammates with Bobby Knight, and things really started working quite well for me because Coach Taylor recommended for me to go and be an assistant coach, at West Point. So I started my career as an assistant coach under Bobby Knight at West Point in 1965. I was in the Army at the time, and I had kind of replaced him when he was actually been, an assistant coach under Taylor Locke. But it was quite an experience going from, being so young. We were the youngest basketball coaching staff back in 1965 at West Point. Bob Knight was 25 and I was 23, but it was really quite an experience. Gail Doherty, was also on our staff. Actually, he had been an athletic trainer at West Point before that, but he became a basketball coach, so we had quite a thing. And then, of course, later on in my career, I got to be the head coach at the Naval Academy. So a lot of people think, well, you coached at Army, you coached at Navy. A lot of those players that you coached must have become, admirals, generals. And I said, no, that didn't quite happen. I said, the majority of them, unfortunately, became doctors and lawyers. And a few of them, unfortunately, became politicians. So at any rate, I've had that great experience, and it's really been, of course, a great deal. But the thing that really worked for me was that, I did know Gary Brads, and a friend of mine told me one time, Don, you might have been the original package deal to go to Ohio State. So I think I felt mighty fortunate, to be able to start my career. But it's been a wonderful run, working at Virginia Tech, the University of Tennessee, the University of Wyoming, and a short stint at the University of Florida. A lot of people and some of our border states think that they play pretty good basketball. Well, let me tell you, there's no state that has played greater basketball at all levels, men and women, through the years than our great state. You know, you got 88 counties, you got the major cities that are the envy of our basketball here in the state of Ohio. So to me, it's been a great honor to be selected to be here in the Hall of Fame, and I will always, forever recognize that and appreciate that. Thank you very much.